Hello, my name is Steve Gearhart, and this is the Unagi Observer. Now, this week we're going to talk about whitewashing in the movies, particularly Ghost in the Shell and the upcoming Netflix series Iron Fist. So first we're going to start with an explanation of whitewashing. Very simply, whitewashing is when a television studio or a movie studio decides that they're going to take a story or turn a character into or take cultural items and change them so that they are more palatable to a Western audience. So it's kind of like taking a originally maybe a Chinese story and then Americanizing it so that American audiences will actually want to go out and pay money to watch it. It is a very racial thing to do, and this is something that Hollywood has been doing since its inceptions. Back in the 1930s when they were making cowboy and Indian movies, most of the Indians were actually played by white people. That's right, white people in makeup and costume. So it just kind of gives you an idea of kind of how racist this could be. So I chose two upcoming movies, actually one movie and one television series, to kind of illustrate how whitewashing is a factor and how it isn't a factor. Okay, so we're going to start with Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell is slated to be released in theaters on March 31st, 2017, so just at the end of this month. And it's going to star Scarlett Johansson, and it's mainly produced by Paramount. The Paramount company bought the rights from Kodansha, who owned the rights for the manga and the anime. And their international director, Sam Yoshiba, was the one who brokered the deal. Now, of course, what people are saying about this version of Ghost in the Shell live action version is that it has been whitewashed. And basically, I would agree with that on several levels, primarily because Paramount bought the rights to it, Spielberg's involved with it, which means that they're going to Americanize the heck out of this movie. Now, the other part of this, of course, is that Scarlett Johansson was actually given the role of the Major. And a lot of people have a problem with that simply because she is, of course, a white person playing a Japanese part, which is very interesting because actually in Asia, in the Asian markets, people who are fans of the manga and the anime don't seem to be bothered by this because they take a look at what the Ghost in the Shell series actually means, which is a journey of self-discovery, talking about your soul or your ghost. So it's kind of weird that on one hand, in America, we're calling it whitewashing, but in the Asian markets, they're kind of okay with it. And the other thing that I would put out there is that while Scarlett Johansson, whose acting ability is 50-50, and I'm kind of worried about that for the movie, she does actually look the part. There was a rumor that her features were digitized to make her look more Asian. That is actually debunked. But overall, I think they did a really good casting job. In terms of that. If they were going to whitewash it, then this is the way to do it. But they also did make an effort to hire Japanese actors. Takeshi is going to be in there, and he's a very large actor in Japan. So you can kind of take this, it's kind of whitewashing, and so if you want to make that complaint, that's fine. But also keep in mind that everyone who is involved with this is on board with the casting choices, with the script, even though the script calls for the city that they operate in to be more multicultural instead of an actual Hong Kong feel to it. And just keep in mind that the international director who allowed the rights to be bought by Spielberg and Paramount, Sam Yoshiba, really had no problems with this and actually liked the fact that Scarlett Johansson was hired as the Major, because honestly the other choice, their first choice, was Margot Robbie. Yes, Harlequin. Can you imagine that? Harlequin as the Major? I don't think so. Okay, now that we've established that Ghost in the Shell has been whitewashed, let's go on to a series that is being accused of being whitewashed but really isn't. That new series is going to be on Netflix at the end of the week, March 17th, St. Paddy's Day, and it's called Iron Fist. So either you're going to be drunk or you're going to be watching Iron Fist, or maybe a combination thereof. Now, Netflix, this series by Netflix, which is the last one before the Defenders show up, is being accused of whitewashing, that Danny Rand's character is supposed to be Asian. Well, that's actually not true. The comic book legend of Iron Fist, which is created, of course, by Marvel, started in 1974. And the reason that this series is so old is because Iron Fist is actually a nod to the martial arts craze that was going on in the mid 70s. There's a character called Shang-Chi, who is the Marvel nod to Bruce Lee, who by the way taught Spider-Man how to fight, and Iron Fist is actually a nod to Chuck Norris. So the character Danny Rand was always white. His father was apparently tromping around in the mountains of Tibet, and Kunlun suddenly appeared. Now, Kunlun is not necessarily a out-of-the-way place on the planet Earth. It is actually from the Kunlun dimension. But the city shows up every 10 years in the same place. So Wendell Rand, the father of Danny Rand, happened upon this place, and he saved the leader of Kunlun and became the adopted son of the leader for the next 10 years. So when Kunlun comes back, he decides to leave, and he raises a family, hence his wife, his son, Danny Rand. Well, he decides to show them Kunlun, times it out, and they go into the mountains with a couple of their friends to find Kunlun and possibly live there. Well, the friends betray him, and they kill him and his wife and try to kill Danny Rand, but the archers from Kunlun save him. So he spends the next 10 years in Kunlun training to be the Iron Fist to get vengeance on the people who killed his parents. So 10 years later he comes back to New York City and finds, his father's business, which is Rand Industries, and takes over the mantle. Hence the series on Netflix. So as you can tell, the character was never supposed to be Asian to begin with. Another couple of interesting things about this is that Iron Fist was originally the partner of Power Man, who's also known as Luke Cage. They actually started a detective agency and had their own run in Marvel for quite a few years before it was canceled. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pair them up in the Defenders. But again, the more important point is that this show is not whitewashed. However, some of the other reviews, some of the critiques are kind of scary, so I kind of hope it's going to be good. But in terms of it being whitewashed, no, that's not true. Danny Rand is white, was supposed to be white, was always white. Sorry for those of you who thought he was Asian, but he just wasn't. Okay, so that's it for this week about whitewashing, about how one movie is and a Netflix series isn't. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. My name is Steve Gerhardt. This is the Unagi Observer, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next week.